So many desires, or as many desires, so many blankets. Covering the radiance of the Spirit. We have to uncover to discover. We have to uncover, discover. We have to uncover, discover.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Divine Discoveries podcast. This is sort of a special one because it's sort of a mini milestone episode for us. This is number 10. So really, really excited to bring this episode to you. And we have a very special topic we're going to talk about and a very special guest that we're going to be introducing in a little bit. But before we get into all of this, as always, we do our introductory prayers. So I'll get started with that. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Gum Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha. Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sadguru Bhagavan Ki Jai. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Sarvamangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanye Trayambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Aim Saraswatyai Swaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmiye Namaha. Om Shri Mahakalikaye Namaha. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityor Mokshi Yamamrutat. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Bhur-Bhuvaswaha. Om Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Om Shantakaram Bhujagashyanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gaganasadrusham Meghavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmikantam Kamalanayanam Yogibirdhyanagamyam Vande Vishnum Bhavabhayaharam Sarvalokaikkanatham. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Pandurangaya. Om Apadam Apahartaram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Shri Ramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham. Shri Rama Jai Rama Jai Jai Rama. Shri Rama Jai Rama Jai Jai Rama. Shri Rama Jai Rama Jai Jai Rama. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardaram Devaki Paramanandam Shri Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. Om Klim Krishnaya Namaha. Om Klim Krishnaya Namaha. Om Klim Krishnaya Namaha. Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Christiane, please let the listeners know how they can connect with us if they haven't discovered us already.
Absolutely. So we're on Facebook, and it's simply Divine Discoveries is our page. On Instagram, we are divine_discoveries_108. We have a WhatsApp channel, and you can find us just by searching Divine Discoveries. And then lastly, we have an email address, which is divinediscoveries108@gmail.com. So thank you to all of our listeners and everyone who's been engaging with us thus far. And please keep it coming, your questions, your comments, etc. We love to hear from you. And I'd also like to make an announcement. We have had presently over 1,700 downloads across the various streaming platforms that we're on. And today we're recording our 10th episode. So it's great to hit this numeric milestone with all of you. And personally, I feel as if we're just now starting to hit our stride, as this is a new media and endeavor for each of us, all of us, and we're continuing to develop our style and rhythms. And as far as content goes, I remember many, many months ago now when Pratt, you first approached me about doing this podcast, I was thinking, this is a brilliant idea, but like, what are we going to talk about? And now I feel like we have the opposite problem in the terms of content. Like, we have so much fantastic content and so many different directions that we can go in and that we are going in, that sometimes it's hard to parse it down and prioritize what to discuss. But this is a really fantastic problem to have. And I'm just really looking forward to continuing to grow and continuing to go on this journey with all of you. And with our listeners, and of course with each of you, my castmates, Pratt and Vikram. So I wanted to hand it over to each of you and see if you had any thoughts that you'd like to share, given this 10th episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's incredible. It's incredible to hear about, the fact that we've had so many folks listening in. It's incredible that we've, gotten to episode 10. And yeah, you're right, Christiane, that, we've only really scratched the surface of what we can talk about. And I think our hope really continues to be that, folks that, perhaps have not figured out exactly how to be spiritually engaged can listen to everyday people just like us and take something away from the experiences we've had and what we've learned, and we hope that continues to grow. So it's really special that we're here, and we look forward to continuing to see this growth and discover more aspects to discuss.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is such a surreal feeling, because I think when we started with episode 1, I think we all didn't know where this was going to go, and we were nervous about it. I think there was a passion within all of us to discover these amazing things that we've learned thus far, and there's so much more. And so I'm really thankful for the team that I have. Christiane and Vikram have been such strong pillars to be able to rely on, and both have contributed so much to this podcast that it's really our project together, and I'm really thankful that I could be part of this team, and we hope to bring all of you really wonderful content, even better content than we've produced. I definitely urge our audience to let us know if we're not doing something well enough. Constructive criticism is always welcome. But if we are doing something well, and maybe there's some subject that we are not thinking about that you have in mind, please do let us know. We have our Gmail address that Christiane mentioned, so please send us emails or send us any messages, direct messages on Instagram. We're checking these regularly, so we're thankful for the audience we have. And here we are in double digits in terms of our number of episodes. This is awesome. So congratulations to the entire team of Divine Discoveries. So on that note, we come to the topic that we're going to discuss today, or we're going to explore this topic in two different ways. So we're going to understand theoretically what this special occasion means. And what I'm talking about is Guru Purnima that took place on July 10th of this year. And it's usually around this time of the year. And Guru Purnima is a very auspicious day. There's a Purnima means full moon day. And the full moon has a very important significance, I'm sure in various religions, but especially in the Hindu religion, because the full moon characterizes fullness or completeness. And we as human beings often find ourselves incomplete because we are always desiring for more or aspiring for more. There's something within us that's saying, I'm not fulfilled. I'm looking for more. I'm looking for something that's going to satisfy me more. So that fullness in the moon is considered to be very auspicious. That's why a lot of puja rituals or any new undertakings in your life, any new things that you start off, is always considered to be a good omen when you do it on a full moon day. So there's the Purnima aspect of it. The first part of that is Guru. So when we actually think about what the word Guru means, I know this is a term that's heard a lot. It's used even in Western society quite a bit. But Guru literally means one who dispels ignorance or the darkness of ignorance. Just like we have the sun come up in the morning and the night's darkness is dispelled. It's just like that. It's literally like that. When a guru enters your life, that guru figure enters your life, you have that illumination, that brightness, that light of wisdom that enters your life and your heart, and it changes a lot of things in your life. So, this is the reason why we celebrate this Guru Purnima, and the full moon day happens every month, right? We have one each month, so it's 12 of them in a year. Each one has its own unique name, but I would say Guru Purnima is definitely at the top of that, because there's no higher influence that you could ever have in your life than that guru principle and that guru figure. And when we think about the gurus, there's so many different ones that you can read about in our history, in our scriptures, and in our Puranas and stuff. There are so many of them, so many revered ones. But the one that this full moon day, Guru Purnima, is associated with or linked with is Maharishi Vedavyasa, and Maharishi Vedavyasa is considered one of the incarnations of Lord Vishnu himself, because there's no way that one rishi or one sage could do so many amazing scriptures and literary works that he put together, compiled, composed. It's unbelievable. And we've spoken about him in the past episodes as well. But Maharishi Vedavyasa, just so everybody knows, was one of the characters of the Mahabharata. And not only was he a character of the Mahabharata, but just like Sage Valmiki was a character of the Ramayana and he composed it, Sage Vedavyasa was the original composer of the epic, the historic epic known as the Mahabharata, within which we know that the Bhagavad Gita is there, the 700 verses of that. And not to mention, he compiled and put together the wisdom of the Vedas that were transmitted. Remember, they were transmitted orally. He composed those compiled them into 4 different books. We spoke about that. And then he wrote all the Mahapuranas, the 18 or 19 Mahapuranas, the composer of all of these, So that's why Guru Purnima is also called Vyasa Purnima. So it's in honor of Sage Vedavyasa that we celebrate this day. And because Vedavyasa has given us so many of these scriptures to study, and especially for this yuga that we're in, where the darkness is at its all-time high, we require a guru who can walk amongst us, walk along with us, to be able to decipher and to be able to uncover all the mysteries and the confusion that we have when we read these things. It's not easy for us to comprehend these things firsthand. So that's the reason why we always pay homage to the guru figure who has given us this great wisdom, this complicated wisdom in a simplified manner. So, of course, for me, the guru figure is Sadguru Sant Keshavadas ji. And that's who you hear at the beginning of the podcast. That's whose discourse clip that I play at the end. We're always blessed to be in association, not just with the guru in whatever way we can, but also a great disciple of that guru. And today we're so fortunate to have such a disciple with us who's joined us, who I'm so fortunate to have recently been connected with. Recently, I've personally met him also. So I'd like to introduce to you, all of you, Mr. John Butler III. That's his name, birth name. And when he was born again, initiated by Sadguru Sant Keshavadas ji, his name given to him was Janardana Dasa. So Janardana Dasa is a Black American practicing Vaishnavite Hindu of the Madhvacharya Sampradaya, or Parampara lineage. He was born in Tucson, Arizona in January of 1962 on the full moon day, once again another Purnima, of Paush Purnima, and was raised in the Catholic Christian tradition in the state of Ohio. At the age of 27, he was bestowed with the spiritual name of Janardana Dasa by his guru, Sant Bhadragiri Keshavadas, and was initiated into mantra yoga by him in the Garhwal Himalayas at the remote Badrinath Shrine in August of 1990. Janardana Dasa has served in the United States Air Force for 20 years, 4 years active duty, and 16 years of reserve, retiring in 2008. Thank you so much for your service. During that time, he has simultaneously carried on his life as a married man of 33 years, congratulations, and as a father who has raised 4 grown children, and as a grandfather of 4. Wow. Professionally, 28 years ago, Janardana followed an inner prompting to leave corporate America to pursue a teaching career that has spanned decades as a teacher of special education and as a coach of track and field in an urban setting. And in his current job setting as a teacher of incarcerated youth behind bars in the Georgia penal system. Educationally, he has earned a bachelor's degree from Western Illinois University, an interdisciplinary master's degree in history and philosophy from California State University at Dominguez Hills, and a second master's degree in behavioral disorders from Clark Atlanta University, and lastly, an education specialist degree from Argosy University in curriculum and instruction. Janardana Dasa has lived a healthy vegetarian lifestyle since 1981 at the age of 19. This was at first inspired by his earlier life as an endurance athlete, and then later on inspired by the nonviolent dietary prescriptions espoused by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. In August of 1990, he made the trek to Badrinath Temple deep in the Himalayan foothills near Tibet and to Rameshwar Temple on the very southernmost tip of the Indian peninsula. This is also known as the Badri Rameshwara Yatra, or pilgrimage. He thus became one of the first Black American non-Indian adherents of the Hindu faith to complete this scripturally prescribed pilgrimage. For the last 30 years, Janardana Dasa has also been an active 32nd degree Prince Hall Freemason in both the York Rite and the Scottish Rite branches of Masonry. Lastly, in 2021, as an ardent enthusiast of health and fitness, he set the U.S. Powerlifting Association, USPA for short, at the age of 59, Georgia, state bench press record in the Masters division. Quite a resume there, Janardana Dasa, quite a resume. And what a blessing and honor and privilege, and I don't know what to say. Truly a blessing to have you joining us today. And it's a homecoming for you, I hope, because this is Temple of Cosmic Religion, Guruji's organization that's presenting this.
Absolutely, Prat. And thank you very much. And you're so kind. And thank you for the most gracious introduction.
Thank you for joining us. So as I was speaking about the Guru figure, the Guru principle, it's an interesting thought, because I was thinking about this yesterday, guys. We have various gurus in our life, right? So from the time we're born, our first guru is our mother and our father, our parents. And then throughout our life, through our relationships, through our friends, and then our education system, as we get into school and college and all kinds of walks of life, we find different people who we learn something from, something meaningful from. Each and every one of those can be called as a guru, because they've taught us something meaningful that sticks with us in our life. So such a guru figure is not just one it's one principle, but it really can manifest in so many different forms in our life. But there's something distinctly different when we talk about the spiritual master, the spiritual guru. And I would arguably say that such a guru figure is actually of higher importance than even our biological parents. But why would I say something like that? I'd like to open that up to Vikram and Christiane to let us know why do you think the guru should have that high of a position in our life? Why would that be?
Yeah, thanks, Pratt. I think, all of us as human beings are like unmolded clay, right? We're empty. We're an empty vessel. And we are here to gain knowledge, build knowledge, and hopefully become, at a surface level, become good human beings. But more than that, make sure that this vessel gets filled with knowledge that takes us to a path to salvation. Now, whatever the path of salvation is, that might, vary here and there, but the goal is ultimately the same. The destination is ultimately the same. And when it comes to a guru, of course, we have our parents who lay the basic foundation of who we are, but it's the other people that we interact with, and especially our spiritual gurus, that help us understand that beyond what we're experiencing day to day, there's something more. There's something more that's difficult to understand. And for that, guidance is absolutely necessary. And we all want to get to that point of salvation. And it's the spiritual gurus who can hold our hands and walk us there. So we have these two paths. We have, in the material world, how should we conduct ourselves? But on the path of spirituality, how do we get to the destination of being free? So that's how I view this as in terms of what is most significant here.
Well said.
What was the question again, Pratt? Can you kind of reframe it for me a little bit before I answer it? I have some ideas, but...
Yeah. So I said we have various gurus in our life, right? Anybody
Yes.
who teaches us something meaningful is that guru figure. But the spiritual guru takes on a special place in our heart, which could even supersede the immediate family members that we see when we're born. Our biological parents are the most important individuals that we rely on when we're born, from the time we're born until one of us perishes from this world. But what does the spiritual guru do that makes him or her higher, takes them to a higher position in your life than even your biological parents would?
I understand what you're saying. Right. It's a great question. I mean, I don't see a hierarchy in the sense. I feel like my parents are my parents and that they were chosen by God to be my parents, even if maybe they're not the ones spiritually that are going to lead me to my highest good. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. So I feel like, our parents brought us into this world through God, right? And there's no denying that. There's no contradictions here. And then a spiritual guru or a teacher or a rabbi can maybe advance you to a place that your biological parents can't go with you. And that's okay. And it doesn't mean you're rejecting anything from your parents, or that your parents aren't good enough, or they're not wise enough, or they're not on the same page as you, or anything like that. It's just there's different guides in your life and different gurus, teachers who can help you grow and advance, that maybe it's just not the destiny, it's not the role of a biological parent. Perhaps maybe your guru could be your parent. I don't know. Or in certain aspects, but generally there are going to be these other figures that are going to help you grow beyond. And again, it's nothing against your parents. It's just that they don't serve that same function. It's kind of how I see it.
Yep. I agree with both of you. Really, how I was thinking about it was a merging of both of what you both said, because I was thinking about this yesterday, and it's that, when when your parents bring you to this world, unless their goal is the same, unless their goal is liberation, or that's what they're thinking about, they're very spiritually inclined, they're not going to really bring this concept of liberation to you. And they're not going to really bring it up much. They do introduce most of the time, I would say, if they're on the path of devotion or basic practices, or ritualistic practices or something, they will introduce those to their children, which they think is good, for them to be God-fearing, God-loving, God-conscious to at least to some extent. But it's not their fault, because parents usually have material success and material prosperity as their driving factor. That's what they want their children to have: good jobs. They want them to have a good family. And that's really where it sort of goes for them. But the spiritual guru takes on the role that you said, Christiane, which is to advance you spiritually. But the interesting thing is, the reason I would say the spiritual guru is one notch higher, if not more. And I was never initiated by Guruji at all. But what I'm gleaning from what I've heard from all the different gurus and saints who I have listened to, what I understand is that God has sent somebody in a human body to give you an awakening if you're ready for it. And not everybody who comes in contact with the guru succeeds in that process. But the process, just them being in the light of that guru, being in that same space, some transformation does take place. Hopefully a seed is planted for their future, for their spiritual future. But the thing is that they introduce you without making any judgments, without any expectations. And this is where I think they're different from your average relatives or your parents, and not to take anything away from them, because everybody's playing a role, which is important. But they don't judge you, at least they're not supposed to. They have no ego. They have nothing in it for themselves. They're doing this to help everybody uncover and realize themselves, their true selves, which has been hidden for lifetimes on end. So that's the reason why I think I would justify, if a spiritual guru were to come into my life, a living one, then that's what the disciples who find such a guru, they clutch the feet of that guru and say, "Oh, I have found my savior," because that person has opened up my heart and actually shown me, like a mirror, a reflection of who I really am and my imperfections, and how to purify myself, how to cleanse myself, how to recognize myself and recognize the same in everybody else. And then I think we actually learn how to love our parents. It's not that the guru comes into your life and severs these relationships from you. If a true guru has your best interest at heart, what they should do is transform you into a more selfless, loving human being who learns how to love people around you, not just your family, not just your friends, but a bigger circle of people, whoever you come in contact with. And you love these people selflessly, completely, without any expectations. And that's the purest form of love that there is. So I think that guru is the one who can introduce that to you. And so that would be my answer. And let's hear it from the guru himself, Sant Keshavadas ji, who spoke in a discourse about this very word guru. What does it mean? And let's hear it from his mouth.
Guru being teacher of spirituality in simple. Guru is a good friend, very good friend, everlasting friend, walking with you, talking with you, and inspiring you, awakening you all the time. Guru is your own great self, not the apparent self, the false self, confused self, the ego self. egocentric self, but it is the luminous self, Atma self, capital S self. That is your own great self, is your Guru. As you cannot find it due to outgoing senses and outgoing mind, you require someone to inspire you to a wonderful journey inside you. When you start the journey, all that you see is the mind and its junk. And therefore, all that confusion and unconscious, subconscious, surface conscious, ego conscious, and someone's consciousness penetrating into you until you get unconscious. So all these problems are there in penetrating, in reaching the Guru. Without Guru, you will have no inspiration to reach the truth. Inspiration, strength, courage, that is what Guru is expected to give. If he doesn't inspire you, will not give you the knowledge of God and love of God, mercy of God, then he is not a Guru. He is just a lecturer. Guru must have the stamp of God in his eyes, on his face, around him. Even without introducing, you have to feel, here is someone who has touched the silence of God. You have to feel it. Just like no one need introduce the Sant. Just by the warmth you feel. Like that there is a warm feeling. There is a presence. There is a halo. There is an aura, which he himself may not know, but one who channels through him around will always make himself, the capital H himself, manifest through a human being. A Guru could be a man, Guru could be a woman, Guru could be a child, Guru could be a flower, Guru could be the whole nature. The whole nature as a Guru constantly teaches. And therefore this whole universe is an open book. It's an open Bible for those who can read it. Everything is a Guru around. If you look at the flower, it teaches, oh man, oh woman, you have been given all those facilities and long life. Look what a mess you have made. Despite of all that wonderful blessings of intellect, of Atma, of the prudence, of prosperity, look what a mess you have made. Look at me. I am so silent. I am so beautiful as God has made me. I give fragrance to everyone. Even though I live for a few days, so long of my days, I will just give joy to everyone who looks at me. Be a flower. Learn a lesson from me. That's what the flower Guru teaches. Like that, anything you see in nature, it gives. It gives. And we are all taught, hey, life is in giving, not in hoarding. Give and forgive is the message of the river, of the ocean. Look at the mountain and you become mountain. By looking at the mountain, you become formidable in your faith and convictions. So what is not a Guru? Should Guru only come from India or Tibet? Guru is everywhere. Every pain that comes to you is a greater Guru than any Guru ever visited America. Pain is a greater Guru than the pleasure. Pleasure is your enemy. Pain is your Guru. Therefore, don't say, God, don't send pain. Always say, send as much pain as is needed for me to realize you in this very life. But please make me understand the pain is sent by you to train me and give me enough strength. Give me enough strength to go through that. If you say, don't send me pain, you will never improve. You will never attain that real pain. Neither to be elated with gain, nor to be distressed or depressed at pain. Rid of passion, fear and anger, the mind of a Guru remains always steady in truth. Krishna discusses what are the characteristics of a Guru in 18 stanzas, 2nd chapter, called the Sthita Prajna Lakshana. Inside, the Guru is sublime ocean, formidable mountain. never letting down at any time any devotee, whether the devotee or the disciple hates him or loves him. Wherever he or she is, the Guru as the self is present in every heart, all the time. There are not many Gurus. There is only one Guru called the self, the light of truth. It is called different Gurus only by the mind which cannot understand unless it is said that this is a Buddhist Guru, this is an Indian Guru, this is a Christian Guru like this. Therefore, Guru should be Shastra Veda, means he should know the word of God called the scriptures with its inner meaning, not just outer reading, which anyone can. With its inner meaning, the spirit of the scripture, that is called Shastra Veda. And what is the second characteristic? Brahmanishtha. Brahmanishtha means whether he is working, walking, talking, drinking, eating, sleeping, snoring in the midst of all activity, a Guru should have uninterrupted contact with the Supreme Consciousness. That's called Brahmanishtha. Most of us remain forgetful of that dimension. And we are reminded only when we chant a mantra or sing a song. During that time, you become aware of that presence. Rest of the time, you might have forgotten due to other preoccupations. One more characteristic of the Guru, you can just for remembrance. Guru is God, therefore his quality should be as many as God. Because God speaks through that channel, that light. The Guru as a body is a blessed bulb of God's electricity. This physical frame itself is not God. It is born, it is going to die. But what is happening is a beautiful instrument chosen by God. It became beautiful by God's choosing. So the third characteristic of the Guru should be to transmit his spiritual energy, not the full energy, to the degree that is needed. If full energy is transmitted, then you won't go back to home at all. Your husband will be here or your wife will be here to show the Guru. You will forget your postbox number, telephone number, everything. The full energy is transmitted. You will be a wandering mendicant like me. So you will be in trouble with all the luggage all the time, carrying everyone's karma. Therefore, a little energy alone is transmitted at a time. When you realize the truth through the Guru with his own example, you will know not to take the drama of life too seriously. The moment the curtain falls, one who is dead in the drama, showing that he is dead, the moment the screen falls, he gets up and runs to green room for a cup of coffee. Like that, the death, birth, things which happen here, behind the screen, is the Atman. Na jayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavitavana bhuyaha ajo nityaha shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. There is no birth to the soul, nor any change, nor death at any time. Soul was, is and will be. Soul is a part of the divine soul. It becomes divine by realizing its true nature. And when a man of realization speaks about the self or God, then alone the hearers clearly understand what the self is. But no matter how many times we read, it eludes the intellect, and we will never realize the self with our own reading, without guidance. Reading shows the way. Guru leads you to the destination.
Vikram, I'd like to get your thoughts. I felt like what he said at the end, towards the end, where he said, when the curtain falls, the actor who's acting dead gets up. You're a stage actor, so you must have found a nice connection there. And also how he said that the Guru, the reading gets you on the path, but then the Guru actually shows you the destination and helps you get there.
Absolutely. I mean, I think everything that Guruji said was absolutely on point, and he so eloquently put it, way better than how I could have expressed it. But yeah, absolutely. I think it was very much in line with similar to what I said earlier, is that, we are on a journey, but we don't know how to get to the destination. And we need that sort of guidance of someone who this is not the best word to use it, but it's the one that's coming to mind. Someone who is an expert, someone who has experienced it, has taken that experience and is able to manifest that knowledge onto others. And I think that, because all of us in our day-to-day lives, we don't pause enough to think about where do we need to reach to truly feel fulfilled internally. We oftentimes get stuck in being, being caught up in material fulfillment. But if we pause and we realize that material fulfillment is actually it's never ending, right? The more you get, the more you gain, the more you want. But when it's spiritual fulfillment you're talking about, and when you come to this realization that there is a point where you can just feel bliss, you feel nothing else except total contentment, total non-desire, except for just being. I think it's very hard for any of us to understand that without having a spiritual guru who can walk us down that path. And I know that this is also what Guruji was hinting towards. So I think that what he said was absolutely on point, and I think this just continues to emphasize the importance of having a spiritual guru who can show you the way towards, the path to the Creator and the path to the Almighty.
Absolutely. So on that note, Janardana Das, we formally welcome you to the show, and thank you so much for being with us once again. And I'd like to ask you about your life, whatever you want to mention about your life as we go along through this journey, about your spiritual, journey and, how it began and everything. But, I'd like to actually start off with your childhood, because it's nice to always get an idea of the foundation that you had perhaps when you were born and as you were being raised by your parents and your family life. What was it like?
And I want to thank you again, Pratt, for having me. Yes, I can tell you this about my childhood. It was one wherein I was the second eldest, and I would say that as the second child, you're sort of there are a lot of things incumbent upon you that being one of the eldest, but you're not the eldest, but yet and still you kind of have this. You're kind of stuck in between, the younger ones and the eldest one, and then sometimes you feel like you kind of fall short. My childhood was sort of one like that. Hardworking Southern immigrants that moved up to Akron, Ohio, and my dad came up to Akron in 1948. They were immigrants Black American immigrants from the South. He came up at age 7 in 1948, and my grandfather was in World War II. And so when he got out of World War II in the Navy, he immigrated to Akron at the behest of his uncle. And his uncle came up there, I would say, in the 1920s. So I would say that we're probably one of the oldest Black families in Akron. So he came there, and then my mother came there in I would say the late 50s. And then they met in homeroom because they both had the same last name, but not related, though, from two different parts of the South. She's from Mississippi and he's from Florida. So they met in homeroom in high school, at which point then they kind of met and got together and such. So with that being said, back to my childhood, it was one where, I felt there was some loneliness there, even though I had siblings, because I kind of always marched to my own drummer. And it was one where I just tried to always meet up and so on and so forth. And I would say both my parents, very good individuals. My father retired out of Chrysler at Twinsburg, Ohio, 35 years and such, and hard, kind of like middle class African American family. And I was being raised as Catholic. I went to Catholic schools in my formative years, and so that also sort of gave me a lot of my spiritual backing as well.
Okay, I'm super excited, Janardana. We have a lot in common. I don't usually share a lot of personal information on this because I'm just getting comfortable with this forum, but I'm actually born and bred in Akron, Ohio as well. And I come from a Christian background, and then I discovered Judaism in my 20s, 30s. And so I kind of had a spiritual evolution, if you will. So I feel like you're a kindred spirit with me here, and that it's no coincidence that we're both on this podcast here at the same time. So I just wanted to share that. And I kind of was interested in, like, you know, your religious background growing up. Like, did you feel like that is helping you now, or do you feel like there's been a tension? Or, I mean, I know this is a huge topic and we could do like probably a whole episode on this, on your own evolution, but I'm just really curious in your whole journey and how it's worked with you and your family and how it's all come together for you.
Yes. Okay. So let me just say this much, is that my background on the father's side, he is AME. That's called African American Methodist Episcopal, okay, from Florida. So my mother's side, they are Baptist, long line of Masons, Eastern Star, Baptist type like that. So when my mother was age 16, then she was in Mississippi, and Vicksburg, Mississippi, by city by name, and then she was very, very influenced by the nuns because she went to a Catholic school. And so she came home one day at about 15 years old and decided that she wanted to, maybe I think it was even a little younger, and came home and told, as we say in the Black community, Big Mama, that's great grandma and them, Big Mama and them, and her grandmother and mother, and they're all Eastern Star Baptist type like that. And so she said that she wanted to convert to Catholicism. And at which point, at first, they were kind of like, but being, involved with like Eastern Star and all that, even though they were of the Protestant faith, being Baptist, they're very much open-minded about things. So they allowed her to convert to Catholicism. So at which point she converted to Catholicism. And then she took that faith with her when she ended up moving to Akron, Ohio. So consequently, as a result of that, that's how we were all raised as in the Catholic faith. So just by that luck of the draw, I was raised in the Catholic faith. And I can say that my life probably would have taken a totally different turn if I was not raised up in the Catholic faith, because with that being said, I had an inroad into understanding about iconography. Like in the Catholic faith, they have this tradition of saints and sages and such, and iconography, or like, for instance, there's Mary, there's worship of the Divine Mother that's there, and so on and so forth. And this reverence of saints, a lot of that is within Hinduism, or more particularly that which I follow, which is Vaishnavism. I think, if I can recall, Guruji once saying that Vaishnavism, I hate to falsely attribute it to Guruji, but I could have sworn I remember him saying that Vaishnavism is the Catholicism of Hinduism. So I sort of always felt that the two were kindred in some ways, even though I follow Hinduism as such, Vaishnavism by denomination, and then another denomination within Vaishnavism, being born and raised as Catholic, being a cradle Catholic as such, and being immersed in the Catholic Church shortly thereafter, Vatican II in the late '60s and such. I feel so much. I don't feel any different from actually being Catholic, truth be told. Actually, I still feel that there's a Catholic boy in me, still, on some level, even though I follow Vaishnavism and I do all the practices incumbent upon being a, quote, good Vaishnava, so to speak, like that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, you don't see any tension there, right? You're
No,
not rejecting anything. I love that. And I think that a lot of times with these rigid orthodoxies, we want to put things in buckets and we want to say, you don't do this, then you're not one of us. If you don't say this, you're not one of us. But I think that's so limiting, and I love your expansiveness and I love hearing your personal background on this. It's incredible. So thank you.
thank you.
Well, this is really fascinating. I think, for me, I'm always curious when I hear about others' spiritual journey. I'm always interested to hear about what was that kind of particular thing, that flashpoint that made you realize that this is the spiritual path that resonates the most for me. This is the path that I want to follow. For I think most people, there tends to be this moment where they realize that, oh my goodness, this is what I need to get me to where I need to go, and this is what in my heart I know is the way to go. So I'm curious to hear, on your path, with Catholicism and Vaishnavism, kind of what philosophy, what particular aspects resonated with you that took you on that spiritual journey?
Well, what basically got me started on that path is I would say that I was kind of a ne'er-do-well. And as I shared at the very beginning, there was part of my childhood was kind of lonely a little bit. You always that kind of awkward kid that's very awkward, and people kind of poke fun at a little bit, and they just, you really can't do a lot of things right, and then you want to always try to please your parents, and so on and so forth. And things just really don't go right. But with that being said, I successfully finished high school. I went to a Catholic high school, one of the better Catholic high schools in Akron, Ohio. And then at which point I then went to university. And when I went to the university, met this girl, and then all we did was just kind of hang around all day long, and so on and so forth. So my grades was just like all over the place, just got really bad, And so it was just like, so the girl, was kind of like the first love and such. And so I was like really, really wanting to like really marry this girl. And I was just, I really wanted a future with the girl. Right. So with that being said, between the grades being jacked up and wanting to marry the girl and so on and so forth, of course, her dad looking out for her, it was kind of like a no-go. It was a no-go, and it was just like everything just was kind of like a wreck. And then I was 21, going on 22, and it's just like my life was just kind of like in a shambles, sort of like, and it was just like, wow. So I was thinking, well, let me go ahead and join the military. Maybe, perhaps I can go ahead and take that escape route like that, because people back in those days, they kind of did that, like, did that in order to get away, and they kind of like jumpstart their life, and they can get married and get their life started and all that. But with that being said, the relationship kind of just dissipated, and then I joined the military, and that was the end of my life as such as I knew it in Akron, Ohio. But with that being said, during the time when I was waiting to join the military, because I was in like a delayed enlistment program, I was kind of like in a holdover stage of maybe like within that year of Akron. And that girl and we had broken up, and I had stopped school and all too. But I was doing a whole lot of reading, and a lot of my reading on my reading list was Autobiography of a Yogi, of course. Very, very inspirational book. And then there's another one by Gopi Krishna. The name of the book escapes me, but it's a very, very well-known book on the Western reading list of Eastern mysticism and such, and a couple of other books and whatnot too. I think "Be Here Now, Now Be Here" by Ram Dass, dealing with his guru, Neem Karoli Baba, and such. And so I'd read all these types of books like this and Autobiography of a Yogi, and it made such a big impression on me. A lot of books on yoga and meditation. It was like, wow. So I just sort of started leaning that way. And then I became more stoic in my outlook as far as how I felt my life should go and such. And then the whole pain of the bad relationship with the girl kind of dissipated. And then here I was in Uncle Sam's military so many months later. And then I had made it through that. And I should also add, too, that even though that is sort of what jump-started me on my knowledge to Eastern religions and such, and Eastern philosophy and so on, before that, I had already became a vegetarian. I became a vegetarian 3 or 4 years earlier because one is I was a very good distance runner. And one of the great, great distance runners from Akron, Ohio, he is one of only 4 American men who have qualified for 5 Olympic trial marathons. He was my mentor in high school because he went to my high school like 9 years before, and we had the same high school coach. And so he would always come up, and then he was kind of like a long-haired, kind of hippie white guy, with long hair, and he was vegetarian and all. And so he was the one who actually got me to be vegetarian. So my becoming vegetarian, which is an essential part of the path at which I'm on right now, is it did not come about by first delving into Eastern philosophy. It came about by my being part and parcel with like distance running and such, So then it's so funny how things occur that kind of dovetailed very nicely into my later life of a spirituality. And it's funny how everything that you partake in earlier, like distance running, putting those 100-mile weeks in, 80-mile weeks in, 90-mile weeks in, what I did, it was just so much discipline and such. It holds me in good stead to this day and age of doing things, like what we call tapas, in following the Hindu faith and such. So it's almost like that was a tapas, doing being a distance athlete, preparing me for my future life right now.
Wow.
Sorry for the long-winded response.
No, that's great. Actually, I was going to ask you about the vegetarian. How did you? Because obviously we read that in your bio, and I was just interested to know. At the age of 19, that's pretty young. That was, I think, before you had, as far as my understanding goes, that before you had really turned towards Eastern faith. I was very curious to know how you turned towards vegetarianism. That's very interesting. And it was actually like endurance and sports and athletic related reasoning. Interesting. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'd like to ask you at this time is, as you said that you had read some of these books about Eastern mysticism and Eastern, philosophies and all that, like, how did you stumble upon Sadguru Sant Keshavadas? How did that happen?
Okay. So again, this familiar refrain in my life, it's this theme that keeps popping up is that I do one thing that's totally unrelated to spirituality, and then it ends up leading me onwards to somewhere where I need to go in my life. Okay, so I'm in the military, right? So I'm stationed in Southern California at a place called March Air Force Base, which is in a place called Riverside. So with that being said, I would go into used bookstores, and by then I'm well acquainted with Eastern thought and so on. So my shtick, as you would say it, was to go and visit used bookstores, which there are many, many used bookstores in Southern California. In Riverside, I would go to used bookstores, and I would go to one bookstore in Los Angeles, the Bodhi Tree, which is very, very, very well known in Los Angeles, and it has a lot of different metaphysical books and such. But one day, I went to a used bookstore in Riverside, and I go and I find this book. It says, in essence of Bhagavad Gita and Bible, and it was written by one Sant Keshavadas. So I looked at the book. I saw this book, and I bought the book. I think it was $3 or $4 I bought it for. And when I got home and I opened the book up, it was signed and autographed by this individual, Sant Keshavadas. It said, "My dear Supriya, may you live for God, eat for God, sleep for God. Om and Prem, Sant Keshavadas, December 4, 1982. It was autographed and signed by him, December 4, 1982. Now, fast forward so many years later, in 1997, December 4 was the actual day that Sant Keshavadas left his body, was December 4 in 1997. But with that being said, I didn't know it at that time that that date had a particular meaning, but it was December 4, 1982. So I would read this book, and over the course of time, and by that time I was married, things were kind of rough in that marriage. And I ended up staying married to that young lady. She's no longer living. That's my eldest daughter's mother. She passed away 2 years ago. Bless her soul. And so I was married by that time, and I had a young daughter. And with that being said, she was from Georgia, so I ended up coming back here to Georgia with her. I did not go back to Ohio. So by the time I had the book, I would read that book, and over the course of a year's time, this is probably in the late 80s by that time, I got out the military in 88 after 4 years, from 84 to 88. And so by that time, I would read that book and so on and so forth. And over the course of a year's time, I was having visions in a dream of Sant Keshavadas coming to me in the dream. And he would beckon to me in the dream, like with his hands out, like beckoning to me in the dream like that. And he would come to me in the dream regularly in the course of a year's time. And so with that being said, so fast forward again, I'm in Atlanta. And so marriage on the rocks. She's from here. I'm not from here. Totally different viewpoint about life. We're from a different type of environment. Things weren't meshing in our marriage and such. And we didn't last. So I was living in another house, and she was living in another place with our daughter. And I was kind of like having a really rough time of it, a really tough time. And I was really getting engaged with my spiritual practice, in touch with myself. And so after a year's time of reading the book and Sant Keshavadas coming to me, beckoning to me in the dream, I would pray. I was praying one particular day. The date was October 29th, 1989. I was praying very, very hard. I would say probably 3-4 hours, Lord. And by that time, I had taken Lord Krishna on as my Ishta Devata, which is my main beloved deity. So I would pray, Lord, who is my guru? Who is my guru? Please send me my guru on that particular day. But I should fast forward and say that leading up to that time I was praying, I would write by the address that's inside the book. I would write to his secretary and the temple as to where Sant Keshavadas was located in Northern California, and he would never answer back, and I would never get a call back, or I would never get a letter back, but I would write all the time. And then I had made friends with his secretary. His secretary's name was Vandana, and I made friends with her. And she was like, well, he doesn't normally, write back, and this, that, and the third, and so on and so forth. So, I was then pray. And leading up to that date on October 29th, I had wrote multiple times and called multiple times. I made friends with Vandana, right? So she had my phone number and how to get in contact with me, letters, and so on and so forth. So the date was October 29th, 1989, at which point then, after praying hard, very hard that night, Lord Krishna, please send me my guru. Who is my guru? So on and so forth. The prayer went like that. I happened to fall asleep. And then I get this phone call at like 2:00 in the morning. I answer the phone, and then it was Vandana. She says, John, she says, Guruji wants to speak to you. And he got on the phone, and I was on the phone. I said, Hare Krishna. He said, Hare Rama. And he says, yes, I am your guru. He said, it was Lord Krishna Panduranga who has taken my form in your dream. In your past life, or Purva Janma, so to speak, you lived in a place called Vrindavan for 7 years. And Vrindavan is the holy place of Lord Krishna, where Lord Krishna lived and did all his pastimes and stuff. So that was the proof in the pudding, and what added everything up for me. That's why I took Lord Krishna as my Ishta Devata. That it was automatic, and it was just so natural to just automatically just love Lord Krishna like that. So, and then he was saying this. Then he was telling me just different things, and then he said, we are up celebrating Diwali at this time. He said, so it was October 29, 1989. On that particular day, it was Diwali. He said, we're up late celebrating Diwali. And then he gave me the name Janardana Dasa, and he gave me a mantra, like 2 mantras. And then he said that in January, which was upcoming January of 1990, he says, I want you to come with me to India to the upcoming Kumbh Mela, which would have been January of 1990. And as we all know here, that the Kumbh Mela is the largest gathering on the planet of humanity. It is a religious gathering of saints and sages and so on and so forth. And all the common people, they come down and they get the blessings from all these saints and sages of any type of denomination, all denominations you can think of. And so he says, I want to initiate you on the banks of the Ganga, and then you can take the blessings. We can take the blessings of all these different saints and sages of all these different denominations that's here at this Kumbh Mela. And so, at which point, then, as I said, I was going through some trouble, get in the process of this whole divorce thing, with my wife that I was married to for 2 years and so many months, and then having a young daughter, and then I was just working and so on and so forth. And I didn't have enough money to be able to go and make that trip. But I ended up later on meeting Sant Keshavadas and Ramamata, who is Sant Keshavadas' divine spouse. I ended up meeting them later on in April 7th, 1990 to be exact, the exact day, down in Miami. And then we planned to go to India on another pilgrimage. And that was the great pilgrimage that I went on that Pratt spoke about at the very beginning.
I have one question, and that's about your name, Janardana. So you said Guruji gave you this new name. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you have any idea how he chose it, or what do you think the significance is and of names?
It's so funny that you would ask that question, but most gurus that came to the West, including, if I'm not mistaken, Prabhupada even, I think, did that with a lot of Hare Krishna devotees and such. They normally choose the name, the Hindu name, the new Indian name, depending upon what your secular English name is. Like, if you notice, my name is John Butler. So yes. I'm Janardana Dasa, John Janardana. And I always laugh along with Indians that I meet. I'm like, wow, it's like, you know the old Hindi movie, Johnny John Janardana. And then they laugh hard about that.
Yeah,
There's a song with
perfect.
that. There's a song with that line.
Okay.
Johnny John Janardana. There's an old Hindi movie like that, you know. So here's something very interesting is that, again, here's some more synchronicity in that my secular last name is Butler. It holds the same meaning as Das.
Incredible.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yeah.
I just keep having the chills. Like everything you say, it's so like divinely orchestrated. There's no other way to explain
Completely
these things.
divinely orchestrated. Completely divinely orchestrated. It's just the most amazing thing. You know, all the way to my astrology, my birth astrology is just really just completely out of it's just like completely unordinary, you know. So everything that has is surrounding my situation, my birth and all that kind of stuff, and my astrology is completely totally out of the ordinary and sort of geared towards all of this and that which I experienced in my lifetime.
I have a question about, so I've often heard that when an aspiring devotee or disciple wants to meet that guru so badly, you know, God facilitates that, and then you actually do get that grace, and you got the phone call after you were praying that night. That's such a miraculous situation, and it's hard for an average person to comprehend that, you know, an individual was coming in your dream and summoning you to come towards him, and ultimately you got that phone call the night when you were desperately praying for it. But that's amazing. And it really makes you believe in the supernatural. It really makes you want to believe in the power of God. You know, it's there. You know, this isn't something anybody's making up or can write up, and you can't even write your life like this probably. But the question I have is, you know, I've often heard that when a devotee or somebody who's troubled in their life or whatever the circumstances, when they meet that guru or when they come in contact with that guru, and they, you know, they feel like they're walking into this room filled with the most unbelievable love and warmth and unbelievable. There's like it's an amazing feeling of that they've never felt before, but it's something that they've probably always wanted to feel. But then they're finally experiencing that in that physical meeting. But when you had the chance to talk to Guruji on the phone, and then you met him in person after that, what was it like? Like, is there any way you could describe that feeling of actually speaking to him on the phone? Was it any different when you actually met him? What was that feeling like?
It was actually about the same. It was just that connection. I just felt like I'm home. Like it was just so miraculously instantaneous as far as like two hearts meeting and merging together. As that's basically the way it felt. Like that. It's just Guruji's voice, the stentorian voice. I love that stentorian voice, how he speaks, and you know, and how he'll make jokes, how he laughs. It's just so many different things about him, you know, that that resonated so much with me, and it was just like that, you know. And it was the most amazing thing, meeting him in person and talking with him over the phone. And when I met him in person, it was just like, well, kind of like you couldn't. Well, it didn't work out for us going in January. He didn't say that, but that's the way it kind of resonated with me. But we definitely going to India together to Badrinath and to do the Badri Rameshwar Yatra or pilgrimage. We're definitely going in August of 1990, and so it was just a wonderful thing. So I met Guruji, like I said, April the 7th of 1990 down in Miami. I drove down there with a Hare Krishna friend of mine. I think he's a direct disciple, one of Prabhupada's direct disciples. So we drove down there together, and we went to go see Guruji, Sant Keshavadas, down in Miami. He was giving Hari Katha down in Miami at a place which was like the location was, I think it was above a nightclub down below. And then Guruji, would play, would do all his Harikatha, and Ramamata was in accompaniment, singing along with him and so on and so forth. And it was just such a nice arrangement. And then, it's just, I can laugh about it now. It's just, you can just hear all the boom, 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 boom. It was such a contrast by what was going on down below, on the worldly sphere versus the heavenly sphere, which was above, and so it was just funny like that. So to think about that, how that was going.
Thank you so much. The next question I have for you is, once you met Guruji and you got your initiation done in India, and you were, with all your heart, you sort of took this initiation on and you made this a part of your life. So I wanted to know, like, what was the reaction from your family when you told them, like your mom, your parents, your siblings, your relatives, whoever you were closely tied with, or what was their reaction to you committing to a spiritual teacher from a different faith?
Well, I should say that that is a very, very good question, and I've always been able to navigate it in such a way. And some people would kind of look like, well, maybe I shouldn't have navigated it that way. But I always felt that, coming from the type of family that I came from, I know that they're very Christian oriented. It's kind of funny because they're very open minded, but yet very oriented towards their religion, like Christianity, like the one side, my mom's side. Like I said, they're very open-minded, Eastern Star Mason type, so therefore they're very wide open to various beliefs and such, because, for them being involved with Masonry and such, as the women, mostly Eastern Star, the only prerequisite to become a Mason or belong to Masonry would be that you have to believe in God. So in that instance they were okay with that. But as far as like believing anything besides the Bible, they wouldn't say anything against it, but that's always there with respect to their system and how they believe and so on and so forth. I never would. They know I went to India and all that and everything too, but I never would go in depth about exactly what my practices were as such. They just knew that it was something spiritual, and they knew that I was their grandchild, the son, brother, whatever, and then they just respected it from there because they respect me. And as far as, it was pretty much the same on my dad's side as well too.
That's wonderful. I think it's amazing that your family, while they have strong faith in their religion, they had that open-mindedness and that respect, because a lot of the times, even within an open-minded religion like Sanatana Dharma, many a time, our families or our parents are worried that we're going to be going into some sort of cult or something like that. So it's interesting that your family was very accepting of this.
Yes, and it's interesting that you would say that, coming from the framework of Hinduism, coming from that view. I oftentimes talk with people who still say, oh, you can't attain salvation, Jesus is the only way, and so on and so forth. And I say, with my background, I understand both views, and that half of my family, my family's married. Some of my family's married into Hinduism and such, and so on and so forth. And I understand that view as well as the Christian side as well. And I remind them that, just as many Christians say that same thing, that that you can only go to heaven or attain salvation if you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And I often kindly remind them that there are other faiths in the world that actually think the same way too. If you talk to a devout Muslim, they will be telling you that they'll be calling you a kafir or something else, if you're not believing the way they believe. And then if you speak with some Orthodox staunch Vaishnavites, then they will be saying the same things, looking askance at even other Vaishnavas who don't believe the way they believe. And then they'll be saying the same things about Shivites as well, and not wanting to even enter Shiva temples. I know some Vaishnavas that don't even go to Shiva temples. I know some Vaishnavites who don't even celebrate Shivaratri or Navaratri as such, if they're not like kind of generic Hindus as such, So in regards to Christianity and people believing as such, it's interesting to note that everybody has their own take on what they feel salvation would be. So that is something that we should be very much reminded of.
Yeah. And that should make us feel even more special that, Guruji, he saw this, these divisions and these sectarian ways of looking at things as something that he absolutely did not stand for.
He did not stand for it one bit.
Yeah.
A matter of fact, it's so funny. One thing that really always spoke to me about Guruji is the fact that Guruji was the ultimate devotee of Lord Krishna Panduranga, big time.
Right. Yes.
But yet and still, I told my wife, being Catholic and myself being former Catholic as well, belonging to that faith, I told my wife even the other day, you want to know who one of Guruji's greatest spiritual buddies was? And I showed him the picture of him all snuggled up with Mother Teresa.
Right. Absolutely.
You've seen that picture, right?
Yes.
He loved Mother Teresa. And he would go to Calcutta and he would visit. He would take actually some Westerners there, and they would visit Mother Teresa. And I regret not being able to be on one of those trips.
Right.
But many devotees have gone with Guruji to see Mother Teresa, and he loved Mother Teresa, and Mother Teresa very much respected him as well.
Yes, and I also heard that he met the Pope in the Vatican, and he had that personal connection with the Pope, and they both chanted in their own from their own holy books, and
very much so.
So I think Guruji often would gravitate towards those who had that openness, and I would argue, you may agree with me here, that most of the people, obviously, who were following him here in the West were of Christian or Catholic faith. And most of them probably felt closer connection to that faith that they were born into after actually following Guruji, because he spoke so much about Jesus.
Well, I would agree with that on 100% as well, too. And that it's funny that you would say that, but even our Karunamayi Amma, she always says that I'm not here to change anyone's religion. I just want to, I'm just a messenger, if you will, and I just want you to become a better adherent of your own faith. And I think that is the hallmark. That is the hallmark of a great guru, which Guruji also exemplified as well, to be able to make a person have more faith in what they believe in versus changing their religion. No, that's not really the goal. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that was really the goal of any of these gurus that have come to America as such, because it also can be argued in that respect that Hinduism as such is not really a religion. It is a way of life. So exactly. You can take it from that perspective.
Got it. Wonderful. Janardana, I'd like to ask you, we don't remember who we are in previous lives, right? We just believe that that the soul journeys, and we've been through many lifetimes in terms of in the material world. So I know you had read some books and you had sort of come across that concept of rebirth and reincarnation and karma and all that. But when he had mentioned that you were in Vrindavan for 7 years in your previous life, did you have a tough time believing that, or like were you baffled by that, or like did you find that surprising?
Actually, no. And the reason why was because I was very, very well acquainted, after reading all of these books and Autobiography of a Yogi and so on and so forth. So I was very, very well aware and that I had some type of past, because you know that the soul is eternal. I understand, and I knew that the soul is eternal. So being in this black body just doesn't define me, or a person being in a white body, that should not define them, or so on and so forth, like that. So it always resonated with me that that was my past. And now it's even more so because the type of practices that I have. So then this whole theme of my past keeps popping up, of like, exactly what I was and what I did and what my practices were and so on and so forth. And, being a South Indian Brahmin, caste Brahmin in my past life, I was a Brahmin priest, excuse me, as to the reason why I'm able to take to these practices like a fish out of water. I'm able to take to it like this, and the type of practices that I engage upon now, even some people born into the faith don't even mess with this. Even a lot of priests don't even mess with this. I mean, like coming from priestly families and so on and so forth. And so it's very unusual at that. And I've had the association of many different saints and sages, some of which I'm very, very close to. And then they always, I want to say, they beat me over the head with this. This is so strange. You know what I mean? But I understand. I know who you are. I know what you were, Janardana Dasa, so on and so forth. So I get it. But as far as Guruji was the first one who told me any of this, and again, that whole theme keeps popping up time and time again. And no, it was not anything strange to me when Guruji first told it to me. To reiterate back to your question.
Thank you so much for that. Can you expand a little bit on when you spoke about your practices? Because you said priestly work.
Yes.
You can describe that a little bit more in detail.
What occurred was Guruji, well, first thing first, I would always pepper Guruji on and ask him on our lineage and so on and so forth. Now, keep in mind that I up to that point, I have been around a lot of ISKCON people, Hare Krishna people, and they are Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and they take pride in being Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and they will tell you about your lineage, and one of the first things they will ask is, well, what is your lineage, and so on and so forth, if you have a guru and such. And so that was very, very important to me to know what my lineage and such was, So I would always ask Guruji about what our lineage was and so on and so forth, and he told me that we belong to the Madhva Sampradaya, Madhvacharya Sampradaya. And as you know, being related to Guruji grew up with Pejawar Mathswami, the pontiff from Udupi.
Right.
That was one of his childhood friends. Very well renowned and revered Swamiji of the Madhva Sampradaya. So with that being said, I would always ask him about that. So that was always on the fore of his mind anytime when he always dealt with me by phone or during that month-long trip when I was with Guruji. And so then he said, went from the Madhva Sampradaya, and he said the Hare Dasa section of the Madhva Sampradaya, like that. So Hare Dasas are, as you know, they are the singing saint tradition, and most of them came from the Madhva Sampradaya. They Madhvas are very, very orthodox, very, very orthodox, and the Hare Dasas, a lot of times they are from different sectors of society, not from the really orthodox society of Madhva society, but they were the ones going around like Purnima Das and some of the other saints, that are storied saints from that region, Karnataka region and such. So Guruji said that he was from that kind of tradition like that. So with that being said, I was always very interested in that, and I was interested in puja and so on and so forth. So I'd ask him different questions about things. So on the trip when we were at Badrinath, when we did that pilgrimage at Badrinath, Guruji had a couple of disciples from those areas that went to see him. They were from Nepal, because I think Guruji would spend time up at Muktinath. He would oftentimes go there in Muktinath. He had gone there in previous years. So I think he had made disciples of these two brothers, and they were from Nepal. So at which point then they had some Shaligram. Okay. So for any of you that don't know Christian and Vikram, maybe perhaps you may know what Shaligram is?
Faintly, yes. Faintly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Christian, do you have an idea?
Not really. I read a little bit about it because I heard you were into it, but I really know nothing. So
Right.
Please enlighten me and our
Right.
listeners. Thank you.
So these two brothers, they had these Shaligram there, right? And I'd always understood and knew what that was, from my dealings with Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Hare Krishnas, and so on and so forth. And they were just, very, very kind of like, wow, Prabhu, you have to be really, really elevated in order to do this, and so on and so forth. And, oftentimes, some of how they would say. And so I was very interested in doing it because that type of puja or that type of worship, because you have to be very, very fixed at doing it. And what dissuades a lot of people from doing Shaligram puja or worship is because they know that it's a commitment, a lifetime commitment, and you have to be very, very fixed at doing it. It's something you shouldn't just take up arbitrarily. So with that being said, I got this Shaligram at Guruji's direction from one of those two brothers. And then I asked Guruji what type it was, because each Shaligrama is identified as a certain type of deity. And generally, it is a type of deity that is Vishnu Tattva, Tattva, meaning is that the essence is Vishnu. A Shaligram will always be Vishnu Tattva, or essence, whether it's a Ram Shaligram, whether it's Hayagriva Shaligram, which is an incarnation of Vishnu, whether it's Krishna Shaligram or different variation, Damodar Shaligram, like that. So at his direction, I got one, and then he explained to me how to worship it. Now, back to get in depth about what a Shaligram is. It's a black stone that comes from only a certain river in Nepal called the Kali Gandaki River. A lot of Westerners know of the Kali Gandaki River because that's where they go rafting in that river. On some parts of that river, they go rafting. It's like a really, really, really rough, wild river where people go rafting and stuff on there too. But Shaligram are found in the Kali Gandaki River, the Gandaki River for short. And basically, Shaligram are, according to a pastime in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which Pratt mentioned earlier as being written by Veda Vyas. He was the one who expounded upon and wrote down the Srimad Bhagavatam. Shaligram is in there. And they mention about Shaligram, how Shaligram came about. And in short, Shaligram came about is that Lord Vishnu was cursed by a goddess named Tulsi, which embodies a sacred plant. He was cursed by by the goddess Tulsi Devi, to be a stone in the Gandaki River. And it was just all a pastime, It wasn't that she really cursed him, because it was just a pastime. Like, it's always any time between the gods and the goddesses, or the gods and gods, there's always some kind of pastime where we as mere mortals, we can learn some type of lesson. So with that being said, she cursed him to be in that river as a stone, and you will have the markings of Lord Vishnu are on that stone, and they're carved out by an insect that goes into that stone and makes a sweet sound and carves out different markings on that stone, the chakra, the gada, all the weapons of Lord Vishnu, the symbols of Lord Vishnu, and the signs of Lord Vishnu. Anything that you could even think of pertaining to Lord Vishnu are on Shaligram in some form or another. It's the most amazing thing. And with that being said, in secular science, they are viewed as just mere fossils. But as far as in Hinduism, in Vaishnavism, And the scripture, they have these markings in there that pertain to Vishnu worship, Lord Krishna, Lord Rama. It's the most amazing thing. Like, for instance, you might get a Hayagriva Shaligram, and it's the shape, it has a mane of a horse. It looks like a horse's head. Or I've seen one Shaligram of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna's foot is shaped, it looks just like Lord Krishna's foot. And it came from that river. So with that being said, it's just the most amazing thing that religion, in some ways, this is science on one end and religion on another. And you have these are millions of years old fossils. And then you have the scriptures, which say that this Shaligram is this and that and the other. And then it's some kind of way matches up and it melds together. And then you get this right here. And then it's like you have your faith to go by is exactly what this is. So every Shaligram that comes from that river has certain markings on it that comport with scriptural references and so on and so forth. And there's a whole compendium of Shaligrama and what they are and how to identify them, what this is, what that is, what marking. It's just the most amazing thing. And with that being said, to top it off, every Shaligram is an alive deity. Like when you do the worship in Hinduism of like a murti or an idol, as non-Hindus would say, they say an idol in the temple, it has been given something called pranapratishta. Pranapratishta is the life has been blown into the deity by the priest when a temple is opened up or they enliven the deity. But a Shaligram has already that done when you pull it from the river. Every Shaligram stone has already been given pranapratishta. So there's a word in Sanskrit that's used. It's called svayambhu. Svayambhu means self-manifest. So that deity, the Shaligram deity, or that stone, which has all those markings of Vishnu and it has all these different types of markings denoting what it is Svayambhu, self-manifest, and it comes from that river. And you can worship these Shaligram, and they have been worshipped since antiquity within the Hindu faith by practitioners of Vaishnavism as a denomination and just generic Hindus overall too. You don't have to be a Vaishnava to only worship Shaligram. There are people who generically follow Hinduism also keep Shaligram as well too. But it is largely a Vaishnava practice though.
I know, Janardana Das, that you've sent me photos and videos of your temple room, and I've seen so many Shaligrams there. Have you lost count of how many you have?
I have somewhere north of 2,800, which is a completely odd, rare thing for a person such as myself, being born outside of all of this and being initiated within a 1 month time period by one guru that I had a close interaction with for only 1 month, and never ever again. Never saw Sant Keshavadas Guruji again within that month. We spoke over the phone a few times. He came to Atlanta one time and was trying to get in contact with me. But again, I was going through dire financial straits. I think my phone was cut off or something. It's crazy. That was back in 1990, 35 years ago. I was 28 years old. And we never reached each other. We didn't make the connection where we could physically meet, even though he physically came to Atlanta to give Hari Katha here at one of these temples here in the Atlanta area. But we couldn't make the connection, so we never saw each other again in this lifetime. So with that being said, he initiated me into this practice of doing the Shaligram Puja, explained to me what I need to do, how to do it, that I had to do the prayers every day and so on and so forth. And he told me, of course he already knew that I was vegetarian, but there are vegetarians who also eat eggs. But he told me don't eat eggs. He said don't eat eggs while, doing this. So I never ate eggs or anything as such like that. So I was engaged in this puja and I did this. And again, Pratt, to harken back to what you're saying about the different types of Shaligram in my house and me having 2,800 of them in my house, it's like once you get one of them over time, it's almost like they some kind of way mysteriously tell the other ones back there, hey, come. You'll get puja done every day, and you'll get a warm place to stay, and you get out that cold river back there, and come on.
Yeah, I mean, that's remarkable. That's really unbelievable. I mean, the number is not anything that we would have expected.
You can't.
Even
A
though
lot. Excuse me. Don't mean to interrupt you, but
yeah,
a lot of temples don't even have that. A lot of temples and born Brahmins don't even have that here. You know what I mean? Like like things like that. Sometimes, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm very, very remiss, or I'm very. Sometimes I don't even like to even say, because people are like, oh wow, well, you know what I'm saying? They may kind of look askance at me and judge me and so on and so forth. They don't really understand the depth of my being and my inner practice and so on and so forth. So they're just taking me for face value, you know.
Right.
He's just an ordinary old black guy, you know. So, you know.
You totally are not. You're truly blessed. I mean, if I can say that, that's an understatement. But I do want to ask you, though, if you're able to give us some of the information about this. Is you say you do the prayer puja for it every day. So can you describe what your daily routine is like with your practice?
Yes, my daily routine is like this. Okay, so so having my children and having a Shaligram in my possession for the last 35 years, since 1990, right? All my kids were, I would say, conceived and born and everything pertaining to household life. There's always been a Shaligram around in the puja room, right? So my kids, they have always been vegetarian, and my wife, being a very pious lady from the Philippines, she is always kind of like going along with this too, even though she's very, very Catholic, and she actually went to Catholic church this morning too. So with that being said, my kids at first, they were baptized and so on and so forth in the Catholic faith, and then that kind of just fell off, and they just start following Hinduism like this. So as a result of that, my kids are completely Hinduized, so to speak, and vegetarian for the most part, and they're all too. So with that being said, everyday life, my kids, every day I would integrate them into it. One would like offer fruit, one would offer water, somebody would offer something else, and so on and so forth. And every day they did this growing up. And then it would be like this: did you make your offering today? Oh, no, I forgot. Oh, and they would go down and they would go do it. And so that's kind of the way we lived all our life, like this. So besides all of that, that would be in the morning for them. But then me, I would come down, and then I would either in the morning, most time in the morning, or in the afternoon, I would do more in-depth prayers, like, starting off, chanting different type of mantra and such, Purusha Suktam, Shri Suktam, like that. Then I would chant, mainly is my Vishnu Sahasranamam. I would chant the Vishnu Sahasranamam like that. And then I would offer, the bhog or rice like that, so to speak.
Yeah, I'd be interested in learning about, you follow Vaishnavism, and there are numerous stories about Lord Vishnu and, his different avatars, and how he has come and protected his devotees and dispelled many amazing teachings. So I'd be curious to hear from you a little bit about, if there is a particular story that, you'd like to share with the world through the podcast that you find to be particularly resonant with you. And is there any particular thing that you still remember in terms of something that Guruji taught you when it comes to similar types of stories, similar types of philosophies that you still carry with you? One particular thing.
I like the story of Gajendra Moksha. The story of Gajendra, the elephant and the crocodile. So basically, Lord Vishnu saw that Gajendra was in distress, from being bitten by the crocodile. At which point, then he sort of cried out, and then Lord Vishnu came to the rescue. So I like that story. I like just different stories, like in the Srimad Bhagavat, where what's the story of Lord Krishna and his poor disciple? I can't think of the disciple that.
Was it Sudama?
Yeah, Sudama, right?
His
Sudama,
friend,
right?
yeah.
The very poor, and Lord Krishna is just looking at all his devotion that's inside of him. He's not looking at his station in life. He's not looking at the fact that that he was just a very poor individual and such. He's looking at his devotion like that. So those two stories right there, they really, really resonate with me. Wherein it makes me understand that God is always at our beck and call, and especially like within Vaishnavism and other denominations of Hinduism, you offer upacharas. There's 16 upacharas that are offered generally. So it made me understand that that you only need one upachara to worship Lord Vishnu, or the aspects of Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, Lord Rama. You need one upachara, and that's devotion. That's all you need right there. So that resonated with me. Although I try to do my best, and I'm not even really born. I'm not born into this faith. I'm not a Brahmin. I am a Black American person, the descendant of slaves, and so on and so forth. And with that being said, caste politics aside, and anything as far as like what family I was born into or what family I was not born into, and so on and so forth, none of that really matters in the grand scheme of things as far as worshiping the Lord. So I do understand that, and that devotion is which is all you need.
So you mentioned Shri Karunamayi Amma, who you're saying is your family guru, and what was it that led up to you coming in contact with her, and how would you say, because I know there was a period of time between when Guruji, you lost contact with him, like you said, and then I think at some point you knew that he passed away.
Yes.
So you had no contact with that physical guru for a long time, and now you have sort of a reconnection through Karunamayi Amma. I feel that you feel that transfer sort of thing, maybe, or that you had a chance to reconnect with a physical guru just in a different form, in a different body.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Amma Shri Karunamayi. So it went like this. So from 91, so Guruji left his body in 97, December 4, 97 to be exact. I was called by one of Guruji's ardent devotees, Gauri Kreen, who lives in Simi Valley, California. I was called by her the day after Guruji had left his body, and then it was just an amazing thing in that I didn't have any sorrow. I had no sorrow whatsoever, and I attribute that to the fact that is a direct testament to Guruji's greatness. Because if he was an ordinary mortal, I would say that I'd probably be bawling my eyes out. Because an ordinary mortal, you'd bawl your eyes out because you don't know where they're going, what's going to become of them, what's happening with them, or whatever. But with Guruji, it was just no doubt that it was just like, oh, well, he left. He finally left. He's out of that mortal cage now, right? So from 1990 up to that time, I was in tenuous contact with Guruji. And I lost contact with her after so many years, 2-3 years. And then 97, I found out that he had left his body, and so on and so forth. So from that point, I was kind of like on my own, I wouldn't say I was floundering. I had always had direction and had, followed some type of practice, mainly a Vaishnavism practice. I've always followed that, chanting mantras and such and so on, So from 97 to 2003, wasn't looking for a guru, wasn't searching or anything as such, right? So 2003, something occurred. My mother, who was born and raised Catholic, as I told you earlier, she's no longer Catholic. She is a Unitarian Universalist minister, and a very good one too. She has her own congregation down in Florida and so on and so forth. Well, around 2003, she had finished her Master of Divinity, and she was ordained as a Unitarian Universalist minister, and she was at Woodstock, New York, at one of the main churches of the Unitarian Universalist denomination, and she was doing her chaplaincy internship. And so she called me one day and said, "Who is this Divine Mother who is coming to town?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She goes, "Well, there's this saint that's coming, and her name, she's trying to pronounce her name, Karuna, she's trying to pronounce her name, my mom is." And then I said, "Oh, Karunamayi Amma." And at first I was like, "Well, is she light skinned or is she dark? What color is she?" She's kind of light brown. I was thinking maybe she was trying to describe to me the hugging Amma, Amritananda Mai, right? But it was Karunamayi once I understood what she was saying. She said, "Well, she's coming to hear this church in Woodstock, and I'm going to see her." I said, "Okay." So 2 weeks before I actually physically met Amma in 2003, my own physical mother met Amma, and she was the first person in the United States that year in 2003 to get the darshan of Karunamayi Amma, because that was Amma's first stop on the tour. On her tour was the church in Woodstock, where my mother was staying there as a chaplain intern. I thought that was amazing.
Unbelievable.
That was unbelievable. So my mom met her before I met her. And then my mom called me and said, "Wow, she's so powerful. Oh," she said, "her gaze is so powerful, this, that, and so on," describing her and so on and so forth. I said, "Okay, cool. I'm going to see her 2 weeks later," when she came to Atlanta. So when she came to Atlanta 2 weeks later, she came to the Hindu Temple of Atlanta. And here's some more synchronicity. I walk in the place, and my wife is at home, and my kids are young. My daughter, who is 24 now and finishing up college with about a month left, she was 2 years old at the time. Then my daughter, who is 32, was, I think, maybe 9 or 10 at the time. And then my son was maybe about 6. And he'll be 28 in about 6 weeks. So they were all at home, and my wife is a nurse, and she was having to go to work. And so, when you have young kids and such, you have to do the old switcheroo. Like, once I come back, I got to get there on time so she can go ahead and go to work. And when I get off, so on and so forth. So that's the way it went. And so I knew I had to get back home, lest my wife ring me a new one. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like thinking to myself, so I'm there trying to see this guru in line for 7 hours in queue. So I'm in queue to see Karunamayi Amma at the Hindu Temple of Atlanta, right? And then I go in, and when I'm in queue, I'm sitting next to a Indian lady with a 16-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl. And I'm just sitting there, I'm on pins and needles, and I'm just, because it's taking that long to get there, they're doing the whole musical chair thing, right? All the way to the front to go up to get darshan of this guru. So as I'm sitting there waiting, I'm talking to this Indian lady, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Amma will take care of it." I'm like, "Oh, my wife's going to kill me. Oh, because I'm not home. I'm here trying to see this guru, and my wife's going to kill me, like that." So I'm going through all of that. So the lady was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be fine." So this goofy 16-year-old boy, is there playing around, and the girl and all this and that. So I get there. I finally win my way up front, and I get in front of her, and she looked at me and said, "Johnny, you've come." And she just started hugging. She hugged me, and then she would pull back. You know how somebody, like when they looking at you, then she would gather me back again and hug me again. And then, she would hug, and then she was like, "Oh, this, that, and the other." And she's just telling me all this stuff, a lot like what Guruji told me, like the same type of stuff, even more about my connection, and what's going to happen to me at the end of my life, and Lord Krishna and all this kind of stuff, and and having the darshan of Lord Krishna and all this kind of stuff. She's telling me all this stuff like that, and then she said, "Next year, son, bring your wife and your kids next year." And so the next year was 2004. So then I hurry up. And I rushed and I got back home and I made it home in time. And my wife wasn't so mad at me because I was able to switch off. We were able to switch off the kids and so on and so forth. So here's an end note about the goofy kid that was sitting next to me and the young girl and the woman. Many years later, 3 years to be exact, that goofy kid is now my son-in-law. And
Wow.
That goofy kid is now my son-in-law. 16-year-old kid is now my son-in-law. And the lady is my daughter's mother-in-law. And the young girl, 13, is now my daughter's sister-in-law.
Unbelievable.
That's very, very unbelievable. And again, the synchronicity of things and how they work. And so between the families now, we share a grandchild between both families. So I met Karunamayi, Amma, and so we've been very, very close ever since that time. But that was a lot of what occurred around the time of my meeting her like that.
Incredible how these things sort of work out like that with the
How they
stars
work
aligning.
out.
I mean, it's just amazing. And many people struggle with the desire of wanting that one living presence, one living guru in, who I said walks with you and physically can guide you. And you're so fortunate to have the presence of two such individuals. Basically the guru principle is one, but it really came in two forms for you at different phases of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. Congratulations to you. And I hope some of that rubs off on us too. All that great punya that you've done. It's a great inspiration for us.
Well, the thing is, like I always say, is that I just feel like an ordinary person. I don't feel like anything special. I don't feel like anything great. I mean, they say I am, but I mean, I just feel like just an ordinary person. But again,
how do you feel like that? Because that was going to be a question I had for you, and you're getting into that, which is, the spiritual ego is so easy for one to develop. They get into it, and then they're like, "Hey, I know this now. I get this. And then there's this like sense of what Krishna says you shouldn't have, which is sense of doership, sense of like you feel like you're a guru in your own right, but it's really your mind creating confusion for you. So how have you been able to stay humble through all of this?
You have to always be able to recognize the fact that that you are not the doer. That's the main thing. If you stay true to the Bhagavad Gita, the Holy Bhagavad Gita, if you stay true to that, and also too, that's another thing. Guruji gave me a charge back then. He told me to teach Bhagavad Gita. It is really yet to come to fruition just yet, but he did mention that. He did mention that, to teach that. So I imagine that sometime or another, I will probably end up trying to formulate some type of class or something in order to be able to do that. But if you hold fast to the Bhagavad Gita, the Holy Bhagavad Gita, and which is everything you need, I feel everything you need in life. If you hold fast to that, then you can understand you're not being the doer and not to take non-ownership of your deeds and so on and so forth. Nishkama Karma Bhav is what it's called. Vikram and Pratt, I'm sure that you are very, very acquainted with Nishkama Karma Bhav. You know, the feeling of non-doership and non-ownership, not taking ownership of anything that you do. Okay. So anything that I do, I have to recognize that it's not me, as I'm just not the doer. So you can always stay humble like that. And you can always understand that if you always keep in mind too, that you are just a jiva struggling in matter. All we are jivas struggling in matter. You're always going to struggle in matter no matter what, because you're embodied in a human form. Okay, so like a lot of these great incarnations and great sages and such, you know, a lot of them, they don't have that struggle like that. And what distinguishes them from us is the fact that the ordinary jiva or the ordinary person struggles in matter way more than, say, these great saints and sages and such. They might struggle like 2%, whereas we might struggle 90%, you know, like that, to put it like that. So the way to stay humble is to always recognize that we still have a lot of work to go, a lot of work to do. So that's what I recognize, and I'm always going to keep recognizing that until the day that I leave the body and such.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can really, take to that same way of thinking, and I think we'll be on the right track.
You know, actually, I had a philosophical question that's been on my mind for some time, and it's about the definition of guru. So, you know, I was curious to get a sense of, does a guru need to be a spiritual guru? Does it need to be a physical manifestation, or could a spiritual guru be a conscience?
I would say definitely both. I would say both. A guru can be a conscience, and he can also be a physical manifestation as well, too. Of course, again, I hearken back to the Srimad Bhagavat, which was written by Veda Vyas. In there, he speaks about Lord Dattatreya, and he talks about the 24 gurus. Are you familiar with that, Pratt?
Yes, I am. Actually,
yeah, the 24 gurus.
Before you answer on that, I just wanted to say, good thing you brought that up, because my son had something in his Chinmaya mission class where he had to pick one of those 24 gurus, and this happened to be the honeybee or the bumblebee or something like that. And it's how nature also has all these gurus in it. So it's interesting that you brought that up. But yeah, I am familiar with it.
Right. So again, Bikram, to mention back what you're saying about, so I think guru can be a conscience as well too. There are also stories of great sages and saints who have never had a guru, a physical guru like that. They've never had a physical guru. One such is Amma Karunamayi. I don't know if you, Pratt, you're very well acquainted with who she is, and Bikram, I don't know if you know who she is. Do you? Okay, so I'm very, very, very close to Amma Karunamayi. She has been in this very house that I'm in right now 5 times. And, you know, I talk to her on the regular, very much regular. I talk to her. I'm in communication with her very regularly. So I'm very, very close to her. So basically, she's like our family guru as such, our Kula guru, so to speak. So she has never had a physical guru. Ramana Maharshi, I think that, if I'm not mistaken, correct me, Pratt, I don't think he ever had a physical guru, correct?
I don't believe so, no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are, different great gurus and such who have never actually had a physical guru.
Yeah, and I would add Guruji into that category as well. There was nobody who gave him the education of following in some sort of a lineage. Of course, he is from the Madhva lineage, but he didn't have a direct guru above him who gave him
Right.
that title.
And
So
and
he was
Pratt,
directly enlightened.
yes, I would agree with that 100%. From my understanding and what I always gathered was that is true about Guruji, but Guruji and all his humility and his greatness, he always took Sudindra Tirtha Swamiji and always said that was my guru. And I think that was only because Sudindra Tirtha Swamiji gave him like a little formal direction.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
The last one for me, Janardana Das, is a very unique one because in the present world that we're living in, there's technology is just growing by leaps and bounds, and we have this advent of artificial intelligence, AI, if you will, and it's rapidly becoming a bigger and bigger part of our society. And in one way, it's incredible because recently when I made a trip to Europe, my wife used ChatGPT very extensively. And it would give you itineraries and all the things that you need to do when you go to this place and everything, and tell you what kind of train passes you need to buy. It makes life so much easier. Within seconds, you get those answers, right? Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, it's also a bit scary because it can transform something that is false into something that's true, and the other way around as well. It can also threaten to take certain types of jobs away from people. So when you're looking at, obviously in your lifetime, you have seen so much change. And, at the technology that we have today, we marvel at it. Unbelievable. This is something we couldn't fathom probably 10, 15, 20 years back. But, we're seeing how much we can do, and it's only going to grow in terms of what it can do. But there are some hypotheses about what is to come. And sometimes when you think about that, what could be human value, where's the human value going with technology, robotics, and all these things taking over? How do you feel about the future for human beings with the AI? And how do you think spirituality really fits into this whole equation? Because do you think this is going to make people more spiritual, or are people going to be less inclined towards spirituality with all this technology and what all it can be doing?
I that's an excellent question. I do think that if disseminated and done the right way, or if it's given out the right way to society at large, it can be a very good tool in order to be able to help spread spirituality. But I feel like it also may be on a slippery slope as well too, because how do we know if the wrong information is not getting out there? What's put out there is just it can be very deceptive. It can be so deceptive. I just saw something today where they had I think it was George Floyd or something, speaking and talking, something, and that somebody just put out on out there on the internet, and it's just things can be so deceptive. But I think that in order to combat that, in order to be able to get the right information out there, I think that there should be, right now, I feel that there should be a rush right now in order to get all the literature in book form. Because I feel that if things are not out in book form or not kept up with in book form, I think that things can be misconstrued and such if it's not in book form. And I've actually heard that too. because right now we see that people are not writing books like that, like they used to. Have you heard that one? Something of that nature? That actual physical books, everything is on the net and such. So how do we know that things are not done correctly and all that? So that's where I see that's the bad side of AI right there.
Right. And we live in a world of duality, right? Like there's going to be one side of the coin, and then we're going to also see the ugly side of it.
Right, correct.
And the dangerous
putting the
side.
bad information out there and such. And I see it going that way, especially in light as the way this is the age of Kali, being the Kali Yuga. I don't see that. I see AI as being a useful tool, but I also see it as a double-edged sword that people will take advantage, and then they'll also disseminate not good information out there that can mislead and confuse people as well, too.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, all we can do is pray for the welfare of the future, the welfare of the people and the generations to come, because this is what they're born into. This is what they're going to be born with, and they're going to have to accept it as a part of their lives and make use of it, hopefully without use but not abuse.
Right.
Is
Correct.
the hope, So let's hope for a future where people find a way to use it to help themselves prosper, in a good way without hurting anybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amazing. We're going to have you back because you're fascinating. And I feel like we're just covering the surface here on your story. It's incredible.
It's been so insightful to listen to you, and I hope we can have you back and hear more of the stories that you mentioned.
Yeah, actually, I have lots and lots of stories to tell. I have lots of stories, different things I've experienced. Different things I've experienced with Amma, different supernatural things that have occurred. I've had different saints and sages that stayed at my house. Like there's one saint very well known and revered in South India, in the Bangalore area. I think he's of Telugu origin. His name is Shiva Bala Yogi. Very, very great friends, I think, with Guruji. You're familiar with him, right, Pratt?
Yes. I have seen a video of his.
Yeah, so Shiva Bala Yogi's disciples would come to my house and stay here. So anytime when you are that close to a lot of these saints and sages and such, that means, of course, you had some kind of connection with them, obviously, somehow. But I have lots of stories to tell, stories about Karunamayi Amma, things I've experienced with her. I continue to experience with her to this day. And, I'm just enjoying the ride. And I'm very, very elated that and very humbled with the fact that Pratt is enabling me to come on and share just a little bit of some of what I've experienced with Guruji and such.
For us to have this beautiful blessing of you joining our show and giving us so much, enlightening us so much with the stories and some of the answers that you gave for our questions. We truly appreciate that. And thank you so much for your presence and your blessings.
Oh, thank you.
So I'd like to cover a couple of shlokas that are very synonymous, that are actually dedicated to the Guru principle. Okay? So one of them is the one I chant in the very beginning of our introductory prayers, which is Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. So I'd like to explain the meaning of that. So Gurur Brahma means the Guru or the teacher who is equated with Lord Brahma, the creator. Gurur Vishnu, the Guru who is also equated with Lord Vishnu. And Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, the Guru who is also equated with Lord Shiva, the destroyer. Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, which means the Guru is the very embodiment of the supreme reality, or Parabrahma as he's known also. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So salutations to that holy Guru. So that's the meaning of that very popular mantra. And then we have another mantra which is really beautiful. Dhyana Moolam Gurur Murti Puja Moolam Gurur Padam. Mantra Moolam Gurur Vakyam. Moksha Moolam Gurur Kripa. So that means Dhyana Moolam Gurur Murti. That means the one that you do your meditation upon, that your dhyana or your complete, your complete concentration and focus and your meditation is upon the murti or the figure of your guru. Puja Moolam Gurur Padam. That means you do the worship. Puja is the root of your puja should be to the feet of your guru. Mantra Moolam Gurur Vakyam. That means the root of the mantra or the sadhana or the japa that you do is based on your guru's speech, your guru giving you this mantra to you. And then Moksha Moolam Gurur Kripa. That means the root of your final destination, reaching moksha, being able to reach moksha is Guru's Kripa. That means the grace of the Guru. So how beautiful is that, isn't it?
Very beautiful. Very beautiful.
Yeah. So now we're going to speak about the holy days of the month of July. So we had July 6th, we had Ashada Ekadashi. This is Ashada is a first month of a 4-month cycle that starts in June. This year it started in June. And it's June through July. And it's of a 4-month cycle that we consider most auspicious within Hinduism.
Is this Chaturmas?
Chaturmas, yes. Of the Chaturmas, Chaturmas means 4 months, 4 holy months. So the first month of that is called Ashada. So that's a monsoon season generally in India. So that Ashada Ekadashi, which is, there are 24 Ekadashis in the year. So that is a great Ekadashi because Guruji's favorite deity was Lord Panduranga. So Ashada Ekadashi is associated with Lord Panduranga Vittala in Maharashtra. So that's a very auspicious day. Many people fast, unfortunately I was on a trip, so I wasn't able to do it, but that is one of the most auspicious Ekadashis. And then there's a day within the Muslim faith called Muharram. Muharram is the first month of the Islamic calendar, and Ashura is the 10th day of Muharram. For Sunni Muslims, Ashura commemorates the day God parted the Red Sea for Moses and the Israelites. For Shia Muslims, it marks the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, Prophet Muhammad's grandson, at the Battle of Karbala. Both Sunni and Shia Muslims observe Ashura, though with different focuses and rituals. Then we have July 10th, we had Guru Purnima, which is what we've already discussed, so I'm not going to speak about that again. July 22nd was the 91st birth anniversary of our Guruji, Sadguru Sant Keshavadas Ji, so our obeisances to him, our pranams to him, and thanks to him that we have this inspiration to do this. Then July 24th, Ashada, that month, the first month of the 4 months, ended. And then July 25th, Shravana, the second month, began. Then July 27th, there's an observance of a holiday called Hariyali Tej, which is a Hindu festival celebrating the reunion of Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati, symbolizing marital love and dedication. It's primarily observed by women who fast and pray for their husbands' well-being and long life. The festival marks the arrival of the monsoon season and is characterized by the vibrant rituals, traditional attire, and joyful celebrations. And then we have July 28th, Andal Jayanti. Andal Jayanti. Andal is also known as an incarnation of Goddess Lakshmi, and also known as Adi Puram, is a festival, Hindu festival celebrated in Tamil Nadu of India on the day of the Puram Nakshatra or star in the Tamil month of Adi or July-August. She's also seen as a female Alvar saint, a poet saint revered for her deep devotion to Lord Vishnu. People celebrate this day by offering prayers to Andal and performing various rituals, including wearing glass bangles, especially by pregnant women. Then we have July 29th, Nag Panchami. Nag Panchami is a Hindu festival which celebrates snakes, particularly the serpent deity Naga, which with stories rooted in mythology and folklore. One prominent narrative involves Lord Krishna subduing the venomous serpent Kaliya, who was poisoning the waters of the Yamuna River, thus saving the villagers. Another story recounts King Janamajaya's attempt to avenge his father's death by snakebite by performing a serpent sacrifice, which was ultimately stopped by sage Astika, highlighting the day as a celebration of protection and the triumph of good over evil. And the next one we have is July 30th, Kalki Jayanti. Now, Kalki is an avatar of Lord Vishnu, which is forthcoming, which is so interesting. Jayanti means birth, the appearance day of such a avatar. And Kalki hasn't even come yet, but yet there's a Jayanti that is marked for it. So Kalki Jayanti, celebrated on the 6th day of the bright fortnight or Shukla Paksha in the Hindu month of Shravan, commemorates the anticipated birth of Kalki, the 10th and final avatar of Lord Vishnu among the 10 most prominently worshipped avatars called the Dashavatar. It signifies the end of the Kali Yuga, the current age of darkness and immorality, and the beginning of the Satya Yuga, which is the golden era, the age of righteousness, which begins again. This day is observed to invoke Lord Kalki's blessings for the destruction of evil and the establishment of dharma or righteousness. And the last one we have is July 31st, which is Sant Tulsi Das Jayanti. Sant Tulsi Das was one of the great saints whose Ramayana became very popular. It came after the original author, who was sage Valmiki, but Tulsi Das wrote the other most popular version of the Ramayana, known as the Ramacharita-manas. So to Sant Tulsi Das, his Jayanti, his birth anniversary, is on July 31st. He's a revered saint and poet, and we celebrate his birth anniversary on the 7th day of the waxing moon Shukla Paksha Saptami in the Hindu month of Shravan, which typically falls in July or August. Tulsidas is celebrated for his devotion to Lord Rama and his literary works, especially the Ramcharitmanas, a Hindi version of the Ramayana. Or it's also, actually the actual language was Avadhi, not Hindi. His works, including the Hanuman Chalisa, are widely revered in Hinduism. Devotees celebrate Tulsidas Jayanti by reciting his works, particularly the Ramcharitmanas, by reading that, and by engaging in devotional activities like singing bhajans and kirtans and visiting temples dedicated to Lord Rama and Hanuman. So with that, we come to the end of the July holy days. And Janardana Das, thanks for patiently continuing to be with us. If you can please conclude our 10th episode with some chanting for the wellness of all our listeners and every being in this world. May everybody be happy and peaceful. Om Shanti. If you can do a prayer for us kindly. Thank you.
Okay. I thought it would be appropriate to, since I did mention and speak about, doing Shaligram Puja and such, and that one of my essential practices is chanting of Vishnu Sahasranamam. Mm-hmm. But at the very beginning of Vishnu Sahasranam, there is something called the prologue. So it's broken up into three parts. You have the prologue, which is the very beginning, and it talks about basically all of this is centered around, as you know, Prat, the Mahabharata. And Vishnu Sahasranam was advented to the world by Bhishma as he was laying on his bed of arrows. You know, he had the boon of being able to die when he wanted to die. And so he chose to die laying on a bed of arrows. And for 7 whole days, he chanted the glories of Lord Krishna. And that was in the form of the Vishnu Sahasranama. So there's the prologue, and then there's the middle. The prologue is the beginning. He talks about who is the greatest person, so on, so on. He describes, Lord Krishna and such. And then in the middle is the Vishnu Sahasranam proper. And then at the end is the third part where they talk about it's the Phala Shruti. Phala means fruit. Shruti is like that which is said about what the fruit is, what you'll gain from chanting the Vishnu Sahasranam. So what I'm going to do is I want to chant a little bit of the prologue, And it is very, very fruitful to be able to listen to this, because this is actually part of the Mahabharata. So I want to go ahead and chant that, a little bit of that, a few minutes of that, if you don't mind, Pratt.
Please do. Please do.
Yes.
It will be a great blessing for us. Thank you.
Om Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhajam Prasanna Jaya Sabhaviknopashantaye Vyasam Vashistanaptaram Shakte Poncham Makamasham Paracharatmajam Bande Sukatatam Dabanidam Vyasaya Vishnarupaya Vyasarupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanitye Vashishtaya Namo Namaha Avikaraya Shuddhaya Nityayat Paramatmane Sadeka Rupa Rupaya Vishnave Sava Vishnave Yasha Smaranamachena Janma Samsara Bandhanadit Vimuchyate Namastasme Vishnave Pava Vishnave Om Namo Vishnave Pava Vishnave Shri Vaishampayanovacha Shutpadamana Senam Papananita Zapataha Yudhishthira Shantalabam Punave Vabhashatarit Yudhishthira Vacha Kimekam Devatam Loke Kimvape Kamparayanam Stuvantakam Kamanchantam Prapnayomana Shubham Kodama Sabadamanam Bhavata Pramo Mataha Kim Japan Muchate Janta Janma Samsara Bandhanarit Shri Bhishmo Vacha Jagat Prabhum Deva Devam Anantam Purushottamam Stubham Nama Sahasrena Purusho Satato Titaha Tame Bachachiyam Nityam Bhaktya Purushamabhyayam Jayam Stavanamanyas Chajatamanas Tame Bacha Anadinidanam Vishnum Savaloko Maheshparam Loka Jaksam Stavan Nityam Sapadukadago Bhavedi Brahmanya Sapadam Magnam Lokanam Kirtabantanam Lokanatam Maharbutam Sapabutat Babot Babam Eshame Sapadam Manam Damo Tikatamo Mataha Yad Bhaktya Pundari Kaksham Stabe Rachandara Sara Pramam Yo Mahateja Pramam Yo Mahatapaha Pramam Yo Maharbrahma Pramam Yaprayanam Pravikchanam Pravikcham Yo Mangalanam Chamangalam Devatam Devatanam Chabutanam Yo Vyapita Yata Sabani Bhutana Vabhatya Gigagagame Yasmip Shapalenam Yante Puna Eva Yagachaye. So I'll go ahead and I'll just stop right there in that to where I ended up. Bhishma is going through this part of the Vishnu Sahasranam, the prologue, and he's talking about he's preaching on the glories of the Vishnu Sahasranam, or Lord Krishna, i.e. Lord Vishnu. So it's very, very powerful, and it aids in our remembrance of Godhead and what we should really do in preparation for leaving this earth. And Bhishma was laying on that bed of arrows in the Mahabharata, and that's what he did. He gave us the methodology of how to do that, and then prayed and so on and so forth until he left his body. So I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Those of us who have read or are familiar with the Mahabharata story, that's a very powerful sequence that happens in that story. And it's really amazing. Thank you so much for such a beautiful recitation of the portion of the Vishnu Sahasranama, which is so auspicious and so sacred. It really touches our heart. I listen to it on every Ekadashi day. So it's 1,000 names of Vishnu, if you guys are not familiar
absolutely.
what it specifically means. But Janardana Das, once again, it's been a great blessing and pleasure. Once again, to our listeners, thank you so much for continuing to listen to us and enjoying our show. Please do provide feedback, and we wish you all well. May peace be with you. Om Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you.